Hey, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We're here early today. Coming on at 5, live at 5. We're going to have our guests, Richard Luthmann and Michael Volpe here in just a minute. I just wanted to come on and say hello. Hello. What is happening? Hi. Hey, what's up, Miyagi? I got your message loud and clear, Miyagi. Did you notice? Woo. What's up, Bud Light? What was I thinking? Donna, Genia, Francis, John Cook. Wow, the chat is moving pretty slow. I set it up for like slow-mo for 20 seconds, I believe. Hey, Harper, Noreen, Kristen, Stratlava, Florida native, hey, what is happening, everybody? We're just gonna wait. If you guys have some questions, if you want to wait till a little bit later into the show, we'll be on probably like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. I'll be able to see the chat and be able to get some questions down. Let's see. Hey. Boudica, Suzanne, what's going on? I'm glad to see y'all here this afternoon. Wow. This is going to be interesting, huh? Y'all ready? Y'all ready for this? Hey, Miss Laurie, how are you? Ozzy. Jared, what's up? Hey, Pebs. Sheena, Stacy. Oh, you're not on here. Never mind. I was gonna say if let's see. I have to put you on here to do it. Should have thought about it before. All right. Hey, Bonnie. Hey, Lady Veteran. Suzanne, what's going on? Hey, Sylvia. All right. What I'm gonna do is, y'all are familiar. Michael Volpe, right? He's a freelance journalist, and he's been talking about what the hells, and you'll see that I've been posting a whole bunch of their unknown podcasts with him and Richard Luthmann. And here we go. They both arrived. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add them here. Always go and check out their sites. Their information is in the description. And let me add them both here. Hello, Michael. Hello, Richard.
Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
Glad to meet you, Richard. Glad you're here.
Glad to meet you too. I am a little bit under the weather today, so I'm not going to be going on video. So.
Oh, okay. That's okay. I don't either. Right. So we'll get to look at Michael.
He has a face for radio anyway, so it's
That's right.
This way.
I have to ask, did you see the thumbnail for today's show?
I did. I was offended because I don't know why I'm the one with like the funny face and Richard is the one smiling. But
I have to say it wasn't me, but I'm not going to blame. I love the thumbnails that we get. We have a really great designer.
Right. I will accept it, though. I smile plenty, so I'm not sure why I was the one who had the.
Well, you were more serious.
The more serious one. All right, I guess I'm.
Well, the reason why is did you notice Richard's shirt?
I didn't notice. I didn't. What's on his shirt?
It says Polymop on the pocket, and it has an eggplant emoji on it.
All right,
there we go. That'll work.
So, you want to get into things?
Sure.
All right, and you sent me an interesting video that I wanted to get into, but before we get into the video, we want to discuss like the current events of the What the Hales saga. That's a good way to describe it. So the most recent thing, I don't think anything else has happened since then, is that, and I call him Magistrate Bozo because he really is starting to act like a bozo. Whenever there's a U.S. Supreme Court nomination hearing, you hear the term judicial temperament, and they always say, there's no way you get anywhere near the U.S. Supreme Court and don't have judicial temperament. This guy has none of it, all right? Magistrate Bozo flies off the handle every 5 seconds. It doesn't matter what you file, he just flips out. And that's what they mean by judicial temperament. That you're able.
Well, did you see the motion to vacate the consent for the magistrate?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And basically in there, Bruce is describing his lack of judicial temperament, among other things.
Well, Mike, he's a young judge. That's part of the issue. He's a magistrate judge, and the magistrates are like the JV squad of the judges. There's Article 3 judges that are presidentially appointed and then confirmed by the Senate, and they have to go in front of Congress. They got to go up to Washington. They're the real deal. Those are real deal constitutional Article 3 judges. This guy's like the mopping boy, basically. He's a magistrate judge. He's there to help, and he can be dismissed just about at any time. And he's really just there to, he's glorified guy that gets coffee, because at the end of the day, you can ask for the Article 3 judge to review everything that he does.
You can, but the way the law is written, only in extraordinary circumstances, and when all sides have to agree to it. When all sides agree to a magistrate, they are in effect no different than the Article 3.
Well, no, there's one part of the federal rules, which is Rule 72, which is little known, and especially probably little known to Randy Shockett because he's a moron. But you can object to anything that's done by a magistrate judge by filing objections right after under Rule 72 and go to the Article 3 judge. So there's always a level of appeal to a quote unquote, full-fledged judge. And this guy's he's sitting in Pensacola looking out the window, and he's hoping for the day that he goes to Washington and gets his Article 3, investiture. But that might not happen. The guy, just like you said, he's
never going to happen. This case is way too high profile, and he seems to be playing to the crowd because his orders and the things that he writes, like there are phrases that he uses, like have your checkbooks ready, that he wants read on YouTube. It seems like it, and it's not going to play when you're being looked at by the president. But let's get back to what I was saying originally. So this guy issued an order. So what happened going back was Sprocket, we call him Sprocket. Sprocket files a motion for sanctions, which is very, very serious whenever you file a motion for sanctions.
Right.
Lawyers are supposed to make money on a case, not supposed to pay money to be a lawyer. So sanctions are very, very serious. And says, here are these 5 emails. And one of the emails that he cited was actually an email by Mr. Luthmann, where he claimed that Mr. Luthmann had a penis emoji. It wasn't actually a penis emoji. That guy obviously has like phallic. I don't know. He sees phallic symbols wherever they are. But be that as it may, regardless of what it was, Bruce didn't actually write the email. Bruce responded to the email. And one of Hales' propagandists was arguing with me on our YouTube channel in the comments section. And she was like, well, you're supposed to be aware of what's written when you respond. I'm like, are you kidding? So you're saying that he should have seen that there was something inappropriate in the original email and not responded to the email? Like, that's how ridiculous it is. 2 of the other ones said pile them up, but and one of them, I think he said, you're endlessly ridiculous. These seem to be a mountain out of a molehill, but that's not how Magistrate Bozo saw it. So before Bruce even had a chance to respond, Magistrate Bozo schedules a hearing and says, you better be prepared to argue for why I shouldn't just remove you as the pro hoc vice lawyer. And so that was, I think, the middle of March. The hearing was scheduled for the 3rd. And I think it was on the 2nd, Bruce said, you know what, I'm not showing up. So Hales and all of
there were lots of threats to Bruce before that. So
So Hales and his crew just go ballistic about how wonderful it is that Bruce didn't show up. Now, look, I didn't go to law school. Richard Luthmann not only went to law school but practiced law, but I don't think you need to be a lawyer to know this. You don't want to violate a court order. So Bruce violated a court order. That's bad. Look, I was in a position, not nearly the vice that Bruce was put in, but last May 2nd, I had a modification of custody hearing that was in North Carolina. I don't live in North Carolina. I live in Chicago. I had my ticket, the flight, the hotel. Late April, within like 6 days of the hearing, I get an email from the clerk and goes, "Oh, you know what? Not May 2nd. We're going to do it May 7th." And I flipped out because it was a partially refundable ticket. And I was like, "I'm not going." And then I realized, well, if I don't go, I'm going to lose my son. So, you know, the courts are like this. They're very unreasonable. And I've seen plenty of court hearings when judges schedule a hearing. The proper way to do it is to say, well, how does April 8th look for you guys? Is that available? And the court makes sure, the judge that is, that everyone is available. This judge didn't do that. Again, Magistrate Bozo. But again, he's the judge, so it really doesn't matter. So Bruce isn't there. You can defend Bruce, but you can't. Under no circumstances is it ever a good idea to violate a court order, especially one which requires you to be in court. Be that as it may, they're all flipping out. And I've argued with a few of these guys, and Bruce isn't there, but the only one sanctioned is Randall Shockett. Now, Richard Luthmann and I have argued since the beginning that basically by the end, every lawsuit that Jeremy Hales, JAnon, files is a frivolous lawsuit. And here we have Magistrate Bozo agreeing with us to a certain extent, because he has cited two of the things that Sprocket has filed as being frivolous, so frivolous that he has to fine him $4,000. So I am very confused as to why the Hales people think this is such a huge victory. Bruce Matskin wasn't even there, and he wasn't sanctioned yet.
Yeah,
he will be. He has to be. All right. If a judge issues an order and you don't follow, and the judge is like, whatever. And I've seen this happen in custody cases all the time. They issue orders, and if they favor one side, whatever. You have no authority. So the judge has to sanction him, because if you just want you to be somewhere and you're not there, you know, that's like a football coach telling his team to be at practice at 4:30 and they don't show up. Oh, well, whatever, guys. You know, how well is the football team going to do? So, but as I said, the only one sanctioned right now is Sprocket. And for all of you defending this lawsuit, defending Jeremy Hales, you have to understand that his lawyers filed so many bad things that the judge had to sanction him $4,000. So I don't know why you're dancing and acting like this is great. One of two things is going on with the people who are cheering this on. Either you think it's great that he's filed this frivolous lawsuit and all of these things have been filed frivolously, or you just don't care.
Well, it definitely seems like they just don't care. It doesn't matter, you know. If
you are cheering on, making a mockery of the court, of filling the court with frivolous complaints, frivolous motions, frivolous filings in other ways, you think that's great. We have a litigious society. We have a court system that is backed up because there's so many people that are trying to get into it, and you're cheering this on. You're cheering on what is causing this. Come on.
Right. Now, what about like the plaintiff's actions of threats and harassment? You know, I mean, for months, you know, mocking him, the whole 9 yards. I mean, it impedes his ability to effectively represent his clients.
Right.
You know, and I know that's part of the Florida rule of professional conduct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, so and Shockett doesn't stop any of it being Jeremy's lawyer. So, I mean, you would think he'd have to be responsible for that.
Including at the notorious deposition in early December, where he.
Oh yeah, no, I keep bringing up. I keep bringing up the fact. My gosh, if we just had this audio, because in the history of Jeremy Hales being in court, his mouth messes him up all the time, and I've heard it. A lot of us have heard it, but this would have been.
Why don't we have that audio?
Well, Bruce requested it, and the judge denied it and asked for the transcript.
Magistrate Bozo strikes again.
Yeah. So now, have you paid any attention or seen some of the videos that Jeremy has done, or better yet, the lives that took place with Tug the night of
I've seen as little as possible, basically.
Yeah, I normally say that, but I purposely watch. I never watch those guys, but I watched the entire video of Tugs that night, and then the next night. I will not watch again.
What was Tugs like? Summarize.
Well, Tug barely said nothing wild because he had Megan, Jeremy, and DUI guy Larry Foreman on there. Okay. And basically it was, Jeremy talking, mostly Larry Foreman, and then Megan, throwing herself in there every which way she could. So they were discussing what happened in the courtroom. And both of them, Larry was more, he was more scared about how the judge was than Jeremy. And there's a couple of things that they saw differently, but agreed on. So apparently the judge did say that it's his fault, and he allowed this to go on, And also what Jeremy neglected to mention, but Foreman did, was he brought up the fact that he didn't like this whole conspiracy on YouTube thing. Okay. So my mind went to, well, gee, all of a sudden the judge is paying attention now? Is this because of Bruce's document 123, the motion to
I'll tell you why the judge is starting to pay attention, and it's very simple. It's gotten off of YouTube, and Michael and I have been writing about it in the real media. That's the thing. It's actually in Google searches. When you put in Bolito's name, Michael's articles and my articles are on there. So when you get outside of just watching YouTube and consuming YouTube shows, I don't think he ever watches YouTube. I think he's starting to see his name now pop up for being a real idiot.
Well, hold on. He's not supposed to see it. He's not supposed to look at the case, anything that's outside of court.
Yeah, but who doesn't have a Google alert with their name on it, Mike?
Well, if he's doing something wrong. If he's reading articles about this case that aren't put into the court record, I'll tell you what caused it is Bruce. What's the docket number that you mentioned?
123.
That's
the motion to vacate consent.
Bruce,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
To remove this guy, the law states only extraordinary circumstances. Now that's in front of his boss. And by the way,
22 pages.
Right. You look this up. The way a magistrate gets terminated is if a majority of the district judges in the district, I don't know how many there are, agree that he or she is worthy of being terminated. Bruce has, in effect, created an existential stress. If this guy gets fired from being a magistrate, he'll get a job as a lawyer, but it's not going to be a good one. He's created an existential threat to this guy's career, and that's why he's paying attention. And included in that were several links to YouTube videos. Another thing that Jeremy has said. So yeah, now he's paying attention. He's allowed this case to become a circus.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
So, Amanda Martin, why did you allow him to depose Amanda Martin? What does she know that's relevant to the 6 complaints, or now 4 complaints that you have? 0. You allowed her to be deposed. You allowed this guy to ask for 5 years of phone records. You allowed this thing to go on and on and on. He's allowed this thing to be a circus. So I think that's part of why he's now taking notice to what's going on. But I think they're jumping around. Look, they spin everything to it's great for our side. And I don't see how, if Bruce isn't there, Shockett is there, and Shockett's the one who's sanctioned, how you can think that things went well for you. I just don't understand how you
I think Jeremy said it was the best $4,000 Shockett paid to get rid of Bruce.
Right. Well, okay.
That's what
Well, they haven't gotten rid of Bruce yet.
Exactly.
Bruce has asked off the case. The judge may or may obviously, if the clients are begging or saying we want him off the case, and he's asking off the case, and you don't let him off the case, then what does that do? But
he did point that out in the order, though, that he hasn't answered that yet, and the fact that they don't have other counsel. And I'm like, okay. And honestly, I think that the order he put out there, give us show cause why I shouldn't sanction you for the failure to appear, which I think normally he would, but I think I don't know if it's going to happen or not. I think he might get sanctioned, but I'm not sure.
You have to sanction him if you
Yeah.
issue an order
For the failure to appear.
Honestly, if there's any merit to what Bruce had said about his worry to appear because of the threats that he was receiving from Jeremy and from his fear that he might get arrested on a bogus charge.
There was videos proving that.
If he can make any showing whatsoever, and that it's a genuine good faith belief by Bruce that he feels threatened, then obviously that's something that would do away with the sanctions. I think the problem we have here is that belief, though, is not in control. That's the problem. It goes right back to that fact. It goes back to the fact that you have the circus atmosphere that's affecting the lawyers, that's affecting the litigants, and it's affecting everybody in a way that it never should.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's threats going on all over the place. I mean, the day before, Jeremy's on a video literally saying how they know where his wife works. They know her schedule. They've talked to her lawyer. I mean, not her lawyer, her employer. And it's like, you expect this guy after all these threats and everything. Now you're saying that you expect him to jump on a plane in the morning and leave his wife home when you know her schedule. Like, exactly. But not just him, but his fans. Some of these people are crazy. I mean, they traveled from Ohio down to Florida and stalked Michelle Preston. Right. So it's like, and the first time, and Jeremy's trying to say this is a lie, but you could prove it with his invoices. The first time he went down there, he actually had hired security.
Mm-hmm.
He had security with him.
As a judge, if you issue an order, somebody doesn't follow it and you don't sanction them, all your authority goes away. Now, I would bet that whatever the sanction is, it's less than the amount that would have cost Bruce to go down there and get a hotel. So he can't sanction him in a way that's a slap on the wrist and say, you weren't here, but I understand why you didn't come. So I'm sanctioning you $500, which would have been less than what anyway, which would be a signal. Now, what Hales people are saying, and if you want to see Magistrate Bozo, if he does this, what Hales people are saying is Bruce will face the sanctions for his misconduct after he responds. So if Magistrate Bozo, that's not the way it should work. He had a hearing. Bruce wasn't there. Sprocket was there. He sanctioned Sprocket. If you are waiting now, I'm going to wait. I've already issued the order based on the hearing. I'll just wait, and later I'll sanction. He can do whatever he wants, but I'll sanction you for that later. That's more evidence that this guy, the rules don't apply to him. That is. So if the rules don't apply to you, why are they supposed to apply to the lawyers? Absolutely, he's allowed this case to become a circus. And people notice. So if you're hoping to become an Article 3 judge, you should just put that away, because this was your chance to show you know what you're doing as a judge. And the reality is he showed he doesn't know what he's doing. He let Bruce file 3 motions for sanctions and said nothing. Then Bruce files a 4th, and he's like, "Why you should just put them all together."
But they're all different incidents.
Right. Well, but if that was your problem, how come you waited until he filed the 4th one? What's wrong with you? And that's an example of the lack of judicial temperament. And what's the big deal? Why do you care that there's 4 as opposed to 1? All of a sudden oh my God, this docket is so long. Oh, now you notice the docket is so long. So out of the blue, on your own motion, it's called sua sponte, he files this motion to strike without Shockett asking for them to be stricken. Another example of his lack of judicial temperament.
Because he wasn't tough, Mike. He's allowed the problems to mushroom, and I think because he wasn't tough and he didn't, turn the screws on Sprocket and on Jayanon to find out, what's the real basis for your stuff early on. You still have the wounded duck portion of this case going forward, where the whole thing should really be thrown out. But now you have that into the new lawsuit, where everybody's getting sued. So now it's a sideshow in the second lawsuit. So if they would have come down strong in the beginning, there's no second lawsuit.
And he right now is the judge on that. Well, it says it's referred to him.
Mm-hmm.
So
And they
But we
normally do
should be
that when
able.
it's a related case. They normally do that with a
All right.
judge.
So,
Okay.
Lisa, you told me something. Well, not told me. You emailed me something interesting. So, before you were sued, did you receive a cease and desist letter?
No.
Did you receive? Were you ever contacted by Jeremy or a lawyer for Jeremy to say that these lives, you have said defamatory things. Here are the defamatory things. Here are why they are defamatory. Did you ever get something like that?
Nope. Nothing. Zip.
No.
Zero zilch.
Right. Rick, you had, isn't that?
Yeah, that's a requirement. It's a requirement under Florida law, actually, under Florida state, the Florida statutes, which the defamation actually comes from the state law. Even though you're in federal court, the body of law that they use is the state law, and that notice is a requirement. That notice under especially if you're a media outlet, especially. So you qualify, Lisa, as someone in the media. You actually do broadcasting for mass consumption, and you would qualify. So I think that the first step is to test that, to say, look, the precondition to the lawsuit was never fulfilled. You never did your initial letter to ask for the retraction. And that's why it's put out there. It's put out there so to avoid litigation, to say to the media outlet, please correct what you said. We think this is defamatory, and a lot of times it stops the litigation. But yeah.
Oh, he has a full. He's in on charge, full force, wanting to sue. That's it. No grace, no this, no that. I'm like, you never even asked me anything if I'm wrong, So nothing.
And you haven't been served yet.
No,
right.
No. They tried to serve me for a subpoena in this current case, and it was totally improper. So it wasn't even a legal subpoena.
So he knows how to serve you.
Yeah. I would think he does, because he did it to the 5 other people. Right. I'm sorry, I may be incorrect.
No, he knows.
No, the only person who may or may not have, we don't even know, but the only depo he got was Amanda Martin.
Right. Here's how you serve someone. You call the sheriffs in that county and you ask for the department that does service.
Right.
It's as simple as that. So he knows how to serve people. I've been served. I've served. I know how it's done. It's hard. If he had nipped this lawsuit in the bud, there wouldn't be a second completely frivolous lawsuit that's out there. And now he's sue happy
for $9 million. Oh, even his partner, girlfriend, next to whatever the hell she is, sat there saying, "You want to sue everybody and your brother? Go right ahead. I'm not doing that anymore." So
even she had enough. By the way, that video is remarkable. There were so many people who commented that, "Run, George, run." And by the way, early on, somebody said something about George, and I said I didn't know who George was. And oh my God, the Hales people, you have to have. They've run with it like it's some major thing against me. You have to have an IQ of 50 to think that, oh, wow, you didn't know what George's name was? Oh, well, we got you. Wow. No, that's huge. Oh, my God. And they keep bringing up what happened with my ex-girlfriend. And when I was on with you the first time, you remember in 2022, where Megan for weeks claimed that there was an abortion doctor who said there was a 10-year-old who came to her who was pregnant, and because of the state she was in, now she can't have an abortion. And Megan's like, "You're making up the story," and she was not making up the story. It was real, and I defended Megan. Did I not?
Yes, you did.
Yeah, that's the difference between Megan and I. I'm not going to pretend to try.
And I thank you for doing that.
Right, I'm not going to pretend to try to create an advantage or leverage against her. That's something she did 3 years ago that I didn't care about then is suddenly a big deal. Megan knew about my ex-girlfriend in early 2022. She knew that I wrote about her while I was living with her, and she didn't care. And now she's acting like she does care. And by the way, her cohort, Jay Hip, claimed it was an unwanted pregnancy. It was not. I was planning on marrying her. I was trying to get her pregnant, and I did. So that's one of many differences between Megan and I. I'm not going to attack her for that. And by the way, not only that, I don't know if she wrote about it, but when Paul Pelosi got attacked, you remember that? Nancy Pelosi's husband, she was all over Twitter saying this is a gay tryst. So
what?
I'm not going to attack her for that. All right, yeah, big deal.
Oh well, there was enough out there to say it was, and that was pretty funny actually.
Right. Well, no, there wasn't enough. Right? It wasn't a gay tryst. She didn't know. But I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. She also has done a lot of good work. None of it on this case.
Well, no, but Mike, but she's undoing the good work she's done by being a scumbag. And the worst thing and the most heinous thing, and I told you about this before, was that all of the people that you've done work for, you and her have done great work about people's stories. Just because you're on the story with her, she started to take them down.
Right.
And that's really a disgrace.
We did a live stream for about a year, and we did a lot of interviews. She hasn't removed all the live streams. I don't know why she hasn't removed all of them. There's probably like a handful still left. But we did a lot of interviews with people, and she's removed those live streams. And a woman named Rohini Hughes, who told me she is terminal with cancer, we interviewed her and her son, and she has removed both of those streams. So those interviews aren't available. There's a lot of interviews that aren't available. We interviewed Evita Tolu from St. Louis County. That's what started it all. Those interviews are gone. Ken Rosa from St. Louis County, those interviews are gone. There's tons of interviews that are gone because she's got a problem with me. Oh, it's totally slimy what she's doing, 100%. And she went, and I showed the text messages. She went in 10 minutes from the way that her friendship ended. It was I was going to go on with Dave at Milltown's Best. Initially, she says, "Trust me, you don't want to go on. I've never steered you wrong. We're friends." And I was like, "No, I'm going on." And 10 minutes later, well, we're not friends then. Do you know how manipulative that is? That's ridiculously manipulative.
She's clearly on the smear campaign, and it doesn't matter what anybody says, you know?
Right.
I actually watched her commenting on the depot, making fun of Michelle, and she brought somebody else on with her. The first part, she was doing yoga and like laughing at this, at Michelle, and she's really clearly upset and being tortured in her by Socket. And then the next day, the next time she had the depot on, she was on with a friend of hers, which I don't even know who that person is. I couldn't even name her by name. But they're both sitting there laughing and cackling about every little thing, mocking Michelle. And I'm like, is that a serious journalist right there? Like, I mean, I get the commentator part of it, but I mean, it's really, really rude what she's done, and she don't care. And she goes off into these like big, like fantasy world type speculations. Way out there. She's done it with me and whatever we're covering. She's done it with Michelle. I mean, it's just crazy. So it's hard for me to believe she was actually a real journalist.
She was.
I trust you. I believe you.
She wrote a lot of important stories. Rick, you and I talked about this like off air. You don't think explain what you think she is now.
She's not a journalist. She's a content creator. That's what she is. She's somebody that's out there that wants to go and get clicks more than anything else. So she's going to go out there and say, she's going to say outlandish things. She's going to, gin up, crazy stories, crazy following. And that's all she really wants at this point. And it's sad because when you're a journalist, you're guided by the truth. I've never put stuff down that I didn't believe to be true. A lot of people disagree with some of the stuff I believe, some of my opinions, those things that I put out there. But, we have a robust debate about it. She's just putting stuff out there that she knows to be untrue. And that's where we have the problem, I think. Right.
So speaking of that, can I talk about the video you sent me earlier today, Lisa?
Yeah.
All right. So when was that? I didn't see when it was made.
I just had it too. I'm gonna say September-ish.
She's on with Jay Anon and his girlfriend George, and they are discussing several things. And all of a sudden, she goes into this diatribe, and she said, "I spoke to an anonymous source who lived with her. What was it, Northport, in this other town?"
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry. It wasn't. The depot was around September, but that was after that. Sorry, I just want to clarify.
I think it's from sometime in 2024. So she's describing how Michelle went by Ruby, and I was like, oh my God, huge scoop. Michelle went by another name. And then she said, and this, I don't think she ever said the gender of the anonymous source, and this person got very close to Michelle. And what this person said was that she started to doubt the claims that Michelle made about her daughter. And the way she knew was, what is the girl has like a metabolism thing? It's something like that. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes, she has a metabolic disorder.
And so amazingly, this anonymous source, their son had the exact same metabolic, whatever it is, had the exact same thing. The chances are like 1 in a million that you would run into someone like that by chance and have the exact same thing, but happen to run in. And then she goes into, well, and you're supposed to have this kind of a doctor, and that kind of a doctor, and that kind of a doctor. And she didn't have any of that. And she repeats this, right? So number one, and so what she was suggesting is that Michelle has Munchausen by proxy. So number one, had she been working at PJ Media, where she works at, or Daily Caller, where I worked at, they wouldn't even come close to allowing you to do something like that. Because it's number one, irresponsible. And number two, you are going to get sued. You understand how way out there it is that you would accuse someone of having Munchausen by proxy because an anonymous source told you, but it's made 100 times worse based on the career she had. So one of the biggest stories she covered, and you got a bunch of people in the chat probably. One of you folks, go to Google and do Cindy, SYCYNDI, ABSUG, ABCUG, Megan Fox, BJ Media. Find one of the articles. All right. So she did a whole thing on Cindy Absug, who was falsely accused because her son had a complex disorder of Munchausen by proxy. Right. And she covered the Take Care of Maya story. You can look it up. That's a documentary on Netflix about a woman who was falsely accused of Munchausen by proxy. And she follows a guy named Sean McMillan, who's a lawyer out of California. I think at least 3 times he has proven in court that a woman was falsely accused of Munchausen by proxy. So she's spent her entire career trying to show how Munchausen by proxy is misused. And then she comes along and in an opportunistic way suggests, she never used the term Munchausen, or sometimes it's called factitious disorder. She never used those terms, but that's what she was saying. So shamelessly, for clicks, goes against everything she believed for the last 10 years and accuses Michelle based on an anonymous source. It gets lower, but you have to be really low to be lower than the way Megan Fox was. I'm stunned by like the depravity that she shows now. Nothing like the way she was when I knew her.
And the fact that she's trying to call this person a good source was just like hysterical. Like,
no, the source is so good that you can't say who it is. Well, that's the thing about like when you say it's anonymous.
It's someone that Michelle knew in Northport. That's all. It's not.
Maybe she just made up an anonymous source. You don't know.
There was an assumption to who it was. Let's put it that way.
All right. So it's someone.
But the story is still bullshit.
It's someone who knew her. You don't think someone would make that up? There's no way for you to like validate that story. Has that person provided you medical records?
No, but Michelle did provide me medical records, and I showed it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So,
and what did Megan do to try to validate it? That if she was working at PJ Media, they would say before we run this, you have to have a lot more.
Yeah.
And
she doesn't vet anything.
Right. Yeah.
She vets nothing in this case whatsoever.
Someone's story and repeated it to about 50,000 people. By the way, this is where you get into whether Michelle would be considered a public figure. If by chance somehow she was, it would be hard for her to sue. But you accuse someone of Munchausen based on an anonymous source to a private person,
Yeah.
Megan, you better hope you're never sued because she's going to take your house, your car, your kid's college fund, their clothes, everything you own.
Yep.
You just accuse someone falsely based on
Well, they keep trying to make her a public figure. They've made her a public figure at this point. You know what I mean? Guys, I got Robbie here. Robbie wants to come in and say hello. I'm going to bring him in.
Please.
Hey, Robbie.
Hey, what's shaking? What's shaking? Hello, Michael. Hello, Richard. Hello,
Hey, Robbie. How are you?
Hey. So, Robbie, as you heard, we've been talking about this case and, cases and some of the smear campaign peeps. So, now what do you have any questions, Robbie? About this?
Well, Richard's already talked to my lawyer, Rips. But this whole thing has just gotten so ridiculous. It's absolutely insane. He can sit there and attack me, Lisa, Gabe, and all of us, and if we say one word, oh, I'm suing you. It's like, excuse me? You're the one who started with the whole thing. How does a brain work where he thinks this is justified? He went out and called me a heroin addict and a cokehead and a crackhead, and I'm selling drugs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
and animal skins and
animal skins and all this other stuff. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
Yeah. Well, the crazy part is that I really don't know why no one's hit him with an anti-SLAPP lawsuit yet. Like, I think that there's a 7-figure anti-SLAPP lawsuit against Jeremy Hales here.
Well, Richard, we're trying to get him to sue you as well. Since
gee, thanks.
So,
since
we talk about that.
You're helping my lawyer. I mean, you're tied into it now, buddy.
Can we talk about that for a minute? So a few weeks ago,
go ahead.
Jay, and this is where I got the nickname JN. That's for QAnon. He suggested that local and federal authorities were investigating hard Richard, me, and I think you too, Lisa. And it was so the funniest part was that he kept using the term solicitation, and he said it like 3 times, and I was like, "This is straight out of The Princess Bride." Do not what you think it means. He has no idea what solicitation means, but he just made that up whole cloth.
He doesn't even know what defamation means, and that's what he's suing for.
No, he defames people all the time, and then he sues for defamation. That's called projection.
Right.
That's most of what he accuses others of doing, he does himself. Like when he says,
I've been saying that, yeah,
like there's an anti-Hales ecosystem, and somehow spontaneously 2 YouTubers are plucked out of obscurity to attack me, but there's an anti-Hales ecosystem. It's so ridiculous.
And there's I think there's a list. There was a comment. I think it's my lawyer, but there's a comment from I allowed it last night. I approved it, and it literally lists like the anti-Hales supposedly, and then the echo chamber. It's like the echo chamber's got this really long list, and it's like me and Ray that talk about this case right now, on YouTube, and then I guess you guys. So you guys need to be added to the list.
Okay, wait, Lisa, 1 second. Everybody pause here for 1 second. I need to ask all the people out there, make sure you're sending breadsticks, please. We're not going to go on with this show unless you're sending breadsticks.
Right.
We don't ask for breadsticks here. We appreciate them, but we don't ask.
Wrong channel. Sorry about that.
We don't beg. We don't beg.
That's what Megan does repeatedly on her show, right? She has.
I know. I've seen it. It's pretty sad, actually.
Yeah. No. And look, she probably got that from Hales. He said, you got to keep asking. That's how they get trained to give you money. And this is the way for
He's
you.
He's a talentless Jimmy Swaggart. That's what he is. He's trained like a preacher, and he's a terrible one at it. But he knows how to ask for money. He was there the day in preacher school. They taught you how to ask for money.
Yeah, and you know what? You're not even kidding. He really was.
Hey, if you guys send breadsticks, I'll show you my bald spot. I just polished it today.
Right. He's supposed to be a Christian who sues everyone he can find and gets into
Right.
into disputes with every neighbor that he has, right?
Uh-oh, here we go. Yeah.
A Christian who skipped the part about loving your neighbor like you love yourself and keeping things out of court. He missed those two parts of the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Whatever,
Crazy.
turn the other cheek, right?
Right, and turn the other cheek. Right, yeah, and I'm going to sue everyone I can. By the way, he a few weeks ago he said he was going to sue Guapo and his girlfriend's sister. Has that happened yet?
Yeah. Nope.
No, that
He's been
hasn't
saying he's going to sue Guapo for quite a long time, and if it wasn't for the fact that Jeremy's a resident of Ohio, and so is Guapo, he would have added him to this case somehow.
Right.
But he can't do that, so he's got to sue him in state court.
Right,
in
and
Ohio.
then his latest is that he claims that one of the 10 people has flipped, but he won't say who it is.
Right, but he's insinuating it's Super Dave.
He's insinuating. Well, if it's not Dave,
One day he was wearing the Superman shirts and stuff, so that was that. He's
Dave, from my understanding, hasn't even been served yet. So if Dave is done
right
to fold right now without even being served, then
right.
What can I?
You don't want to take you want to take Jeremy's plea deal?
Right.
Jeremy's plea deal.
It's actually a settlement agreement, and my understanding is if you and Rick, you can answer this. If you do a settlement agreement, and I assume part of the settlement agreement is we will remove you from the lawsuit, doesn't your lawyer have to, at a minimum, file something to say that Dave is removed from the lawsuit?
Yeah.
Well, there would be a stipulation to discontinue against that party. Yes, that's what
Right.
would happen.
So
But if there was
saying that someone has flipped and yet nothing has been filed to say that anyone has been removed from the lawsuit. You know why that is? Because Jeremy has no idea how court works, how the law works, or the intricacies. So he just makes things up, not knowing there's ways to check on this stuff.
Right.
All right. And by the way, I could be wrong about this, but the suggestion that one of you has flipped, without saying who it is probably defamatory in itself. Because like Ray had to send me an email and say, please tell your audience that I haven't flipped.
Yeah,
okay, I will, because he's casting aspersions on everyone. Anybody who would flip on this guy, you'll fight him. Number one, the lawsuit is as frivolous as it gets. Number two, if you give in, that just makes it feel more powerful, and he's going to keep doing and keep doing and keep doing it.
He's a bully.
Yeah,
this guy has to be stopped.
yeah.
You have to stop him. And look, his fans, you're either naive or you're like him. Either you just don't see the evil. I don't know how else to describe this guy. Anybody who sues everyone and their mother is evil. You either don't see it or you just don't care. Like your life. Like one of the people who's emailed me, Mary Lincoln's, her life is so pathetic that, and you know what? I don't even know if it's her life, because who knows who this person is. It seems like it's a persona, but her life is so pathetic that she lives vicariously through Jeremy Hales. So that's what his fans are. They either are like so pathetic that they get off on the drama that he creates, not caring about the people that it hurts, not caring that almost everything he's saying is either a lie or a mistake, that you're not really learning about the
Almost like a cult following.
Almost. 100%.
I don't want to say that.
Almost like
Almost like it.
By the way, guys,
It's right out of Jim Jones's book.
So
I'm Lisa's husband.
yeah, this is my husband Gabe talking in the background here if you hear him.
Okay.
So it's a 7-figure anti-SLAPP suit, huh?
I think so. I think that this is a textbook anti-SLAPP suit.
Well,
the thing is that
Mr.
SLAPP,
Luthmann, hold on. Let's take it a step back. Let's teach the audience something before you explain that. What is anti-SLAPP, and break it down for the layman in third grade terms.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's a strategic lawsuit against public participation. And one of the most basic parts of public participation that we have is free speech and a free press. That's the First Amendment. It's very,
Yeah.
very clear that that's basic to our society. Be able to speak your mind, speak your opinion, and not be attacked for it in the public square. Also, to be able to be a member of the media, the mass media, to publish and disseminate your ideas without being attacked for it. The fact of the matter is the anti-SLAPP lawsuits can be brought under the anti-SLAPP laws, which protect people from litigation aimed at silencing them, silencing their
Right.
speech, silencing their journalism, silencing all the rights protected by the First Amendment. So in Florida, there's an anti-SLAPP statute, and I do believe that Jeremy is acting in a way that he engages in frivolous and baseless litigation in order to silence his critics. The remedy
Yep.
for speech that you don't like is more speech. You have a platform, especially if you're Jeremy Hales, and you can talk to your 750,000 plus YouTube followers and tell them how you feel. And if you feel you've been aggrieved by the opinions of another person or group of persons, then you can talk about it. You don't sue somebody with 8,000 or 10,000 or even 50,000 followers. You use speech. And even somebody who has the same number of followers as he has, you don't sue them in the first instance. You use speech.
And we just learned that with the Lauren the Mortician case that we covered last week, where she should have just answered her critics, Lauren the Mortician, that is, on her own. I think she's got a TikTok, whatever they call it on TikTok. She might have a YouTube as well. But instead, she sued and then she got embarrassed. Now, let's break this down a little bit, Mr. Luthmann. First of all, there's going to be an important part of the law if someone was to sue Jeremy Hales. Would Jeremy Hales be considered a public figure? So what is a public figure, and why or why not would he be a public figure?
Yeah, so there's a very famous Supreme Court case. You have a New York Times versus Sullivan, which established the idea of people who have a very, very high bar to be harmed, and those are what are called public figures. So a regular person is different from a public figure insofar as a public figure has injected themselves in some way to the public discourse. So if you're a private person and you stay in your house and you don't really bother with anyone, you're going to be a private person. The second you go out into the public square in some way, you're going to be a public figure for that purpose. Now, there are certain people that are public figures no matter what. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He's a public figure. He's as public gets. Elected officials are public figures. Movie stars, Hollywood stars, TV stars, rock stars, they're all public figures.
Sports
If you
Right.
inject yourself, sports stars especially, if
Right.
you inject yourself into a certain arena, then you're a public figure. If you're someone like Jeremy Hales, who makes their living by injecting themselves into the media, you do a storage show, you do YouTubes, you have 750,000 followers, you're well known, you have all sorts of media about you. You look them up, and they're all over the place. They're pervasive in the media. Then you're a public figure. And what that means in court is you have to show that what you say about someone that is defamatory, which is harmful and false, is also done with actual malice, meaning that there's no good faith basis for you to say it whatsoever. And that is the highest bar that there is in a defamation lawsuit. And it's very hard to prove that something's said without good faith and with actual malice.
Right.
All right. And by the way, that's why Donald Trump hates the defamation laws, why he's not constantly, but why he often talks about wanting to change them. Because he thinks it's unfair that people can say things bad about him and it's impossible to sue effectively, that people shouldn't be able to lie about him because he's a public figure. So now explain. So basically, here's a guy who's suing everyone and their mother for defamation. And you just explained very eloquently that, in effect, the chances of him winning are next to none. So now,
What is he gonna claim that people are maliciously telling the truth?
In order to do it, Lisa, I'll tell you effectively, you'd have to have somebody on tape or in writing saying, "Screw Jeremy Hales. I know that he didn't rape a rat in his driveway, but I'm going to basically go out there and tell everybody in the world that he raped a rat, and I watched him rape a rat, and he's a rat raper, and he runs around and rapes rats." And if he went around and said that, I'm saying it maliciously, I knew he didn't do it, you need somebody like something that says that, something like hypothetically. And I'm not saying Jeremy Hale's a rat raper. I'm just saying that as a hypothetical in this exercise.
Well, what Rich is saying is you can't just prove that something that someone said was wrong. You have to prove that either they knew that it was inaccurate when they said it. And that's why you have to have the video, or that you just had what is it?
It was malicious. You were trying to slander them.
Reckless disregard for the truth. So
yeah,
look, that New York Times.
Well, what if you're here pointing out the truth? Is that malicious?
No, and
truth is an absolute defense. Always, truth is an absolute defense to defamation. And the two types of defamation are libel and slander. Libel is the written word, slander is the spoken word. Truth is always an absolute defense in a court of law.
Right. Look, the other thing is most of the stuff that in the second lawsuit that he says is defamatory would be either opinion or hyperbole. Like one time, I think it was Michelle said he's a psychopath. Well, that is almost always considered opinion and hyperbole. No one believes that Michelle diagnosed him and said he was a psychopath. Nobody believes that that's how she came to that determination.
You can call someone a liar. You can call them a fraud. You can call them whatever. It's not defamatory.
You can call them a racist, or in Lauren the mortician's case, you can call them a TERF. And it's always wrapped up in the idea of an opinion. And with regards to Ray, I think Ray said he was like money hungry, and I might be paraphrasing, but something to the effect of money hungry. And you've got a great video out there where he's always talking about money. But even if even if he never said that, even if there is no video of him talking about money, it is still your opinion that someone is money hungry.
Exactly.
That is all of that is evidence that this lawsuit is frivolous. Here's a guy who's a public figure, so he has the highest bar, and he's suing over opinion, which is supposed to be dismissed automatically.
Right.
This second lawsuit is extremely frivolous. It's a very dangerous lawsuit because we have a litigious society. He's adding to that litigiousness, and his fans and Megan and Tug, they are cheering him on. You are cheering on these frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah.
What do you think that does?
Now, what about like a counterclaims on that? Because he's literally he's doing the defamation. I mean, he's saying people have rap sheets that don't, calling them felons, saying things, frauds, like all kinds of stuff. Yeah, like even with me, like especially me.
What about Rich? You want to weigh in? Like if he calls Robbie a heroin addict, what else did he say about you? List the things that he said about you that you believe are false.
If you're saying somebody committed a crime,
well, he's totally attacked me. He's saying I've got multiple felonies. Wait,
hold on. Do you?
I've got one felony. Yes.
All right. Okay. Go ahead.
Conspiracy to traffic rattlesnakes.
All right. Sounds like something from The Freshman. All right.
Yeah, right.
For all you Gen Z people, that's where the guy from The Godfather spoofed himself. Marlon Brando. That's where he spoofed his character in The Godfather. He was trafficking wild animals. It was a good movie. All right. He called you a heroin addict. Am I right?
Yes. Yes.
Rick, do you think he has a case if those are false?
There are categories. Would you put it in the per se category, meaning that if you talk about someone and you accuse them of being a criminal, of committing a crime and falsely, that is something that's very serious defamation. There's also when you affect somebody in their ability to practice their profession or their trade, that's something that's very difficult. That's something that's very serious. The issue though is what constitutes opinion. Okay. And opinion is it's really, it depends on context, but it's very, very liberal, and there's a lot of leeway if you're making an opinion. Opinions are not actionable as defamatory; they're not actionable as defamation. So,
what if someone calls you a felon and you have a really long rap sheet, but yet you don't have one, and you're not a felon?
Well, you have to go back and look and see what the context is. Is I believe this guy's a felon, or I know for sure this guy's a felon because of X, Y, and Z. And if he goes and
he said he had the paperwork.
if he presents it as fact, then it is defamatory. If he presents it as something that could be construed as opinion, then it's not defamatory. That's the rule.
Well, Richard, he actually presented it as fact that I'm on doing drugs, that I'm a drug addict, that I'm a heroin addict, cokehead, and everything, and stating that he quit filming with me because of this. He warned me several times that he would cut me out of his life, and I chose not to quit drugs, and he kicked me out. He cut me out of his life.
Which is not true.
It sounds to me like you're very close to something that's defamation, not only because of the falsehoods about drug use, but the effect it has on your ability to basically broadcast, your ability to collaborate with somebody. That's where he gets into the sticky wicket here.
It's not only that he said it like on his YouTube channel to what they would call the planet. He's also saying it to people that are actual friends and work with Robbie too.
Yeah,
like off the cameras.
Does that get into tortious?
Those are two different types of lawsuits. There's defamation, which we talked about. Also, the one that Jeremy likes to use is called tortious interference. And that's what's called when you try to interfere with a business relationship or a contract that somebody has that's known to you. That's what's called a tort. It's like a personal injury or an injury, an economic injury to your business. So there's also that issue too, potentially. But
Richard, I've got a couple of those, and
my business is YouTube, and he's trying to ruin my husband's business by doxing my husband and talking about my husband, who's not even really part of the channel except for basically what you heard, him popping in and saying hi.
Right. Yeah. If he's trying to interfere with your husband's business, that's definitely sounds like tortious interference. Yeah. Ironic, because that's what he accused. As I said, there's a lot of what he does is projection. What he accuses others of, he's doing. It's amazing that people like defend him and cheer him on. He's doing the things he accuses others of doing, and like in a way where he gets off on it. I'm going to sue everyone.
Yeah.
Why would you support that? Why would you cheer that on? You don't think that's a problem?
Well, according to patterns, and I say that because it is a familiar word with this saga. If you look at his patterns, he's been in court since like 2014.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the entire time. He's got protection orders from ex-girlfriends. He's got a bunch of stuff that he's been hiding all along.
Speaking, and I think you found, so how many people have you found took out a protective order against him?
Well, he had an ex-wife and 2 ex-girlfriends.
He's had 3 people take out a protective order.
Yeah. And actually, Michelle had a temporary restraining order against him.
That's 4 different people. For full disclosure.
And there's a no contact order with his kids.
Right.
Which I believe now only.
Contact order for his kids.
Yeah. Which, because 2 of them are of age, so 1 might still be in existence. I'm not sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I've done a lot of custody. The no contact orders can be manipulated and misused. But if you have a no contact order, that's not great. And for full disclosure, I can't stand protective orders, but 4 is a lot. When 4 people are able to take a protective order against you, that does say something. So he had a 10-year divorce. He goes through all of this. Then he sues 1 person, 2 people. Now he's got 10 people he's suing. And his fans think it's great. It's wonderful how many people he sues, how many people he's sued by.
And we've pointed out like so many lies, like just in the things that he's told his viewers and stuff. One of the contempt orders, again, this is now the Ohio case with the protection order. He tried to get a contempt order and won. Wait, hold on. See, this gets confusing. I don't believe he won the contempt on this yet, but he's probably waiting to bring it up in court. But in her depot, Michelle's depot, she accidentally texted Jeremy because Shockit was trying to have her send him something from her phone that was a conversation between her and Jeremy. So when she went to send it, it mistakenly sent it to Jeremy, right? So what Jeremy did, and Jeremy was sitting right there, saw it, they knew what happened, whatever. He was probably, yes, you know, like without saying a word, because he was smiling behind the camera, behind the, you know, the depot the whole time. So what he did after that was he called the sheriff's department and tried to write a report and get a warrant for an arrest for breaking the contempt order because she texted him, right? So I don't know if you realize he thought the cops didn't have the dash cam, but the body cams, but the cops' dash cam, when he pulled up behind him at the schoolhouse, his car was, you know, facing the conversation that was going on. He's on the phone with his lawyer, shock it, and then he gets off the phone, talks to the cop, and the cop asks, I'm sorry, I say cop, here it's deputy or sheriff, but he tells the deputy what happened and what time, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's the text that was at the depot. I'm like, what? And I'm watching this, and the officer turns around to him and says, any idea why she might do that? And he looks at him and goes, I have no idea, and starts laughing. And then she's crazy. I'm like, wow. So he knew exactly where that text came from. He was sitting right there when it accidentally happened, and he proceeded with it, talking to his lawyer. His lawyer fully knew where he was and what he was doing, tried to get the contempt with the arrest and everything.
And it
lying.
Sounds like he committed a crime by lying to you.
Yeah, I would think so.
Oh yeah, you'll figure that out.
The more you watch,
so you can tell he's committing crimes to do it.
Yeah,
right. And look, Lisa, you had good video of him stalking Michelle and John, like
every day.
Right. He's making a mockery of these protective orders. Genuinely,
he's weaponizing them.
Yeah, and he's weaponizing. He's following them, people who he says he's afraid of. And he's following them basically weekly, if not daily. And
did you see the Walmart video?
I haven't seen them all. You have?
Oh, the Walmart parking lot? Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
There's not one video of her going to his.
So yeah, I begged. I still say it to this day. Show me one video of her stalking or John stalking him
at his house.
Anywhere,
yeah.
Just one video. There's nothing.
Well, there's a basic legal idea that when you get a protective order, it's supposed to be used as a shield, using the law to shield you from somebody else's actions that would be potentially harmful or hostile or whatever. But here, Jeremy's using it as a sword. He's using the protective order as a sword, and that's not right. That shouldn't be allowed.
Well, he says he's stalking himself for accountability.
Who's primarily responsible for this?
The Ohio judge.
That's number one, Candy O'Connor and John and Michelle's lawyer, Sean Martin, who did take the case on pro bono, laid down and did nothing. You, me, the two of us, Lisa, and others have developed more information, more evidence to get this protective order dismissed than Sean Martin did. And I personally sent him the police report where he's trying to get them violated, where he's instigating the encounter. That should be enough to bring to court to say this guy is not afraid of them. He's trying to use this to violate them. And Martin's not doing anything. And Candy O'Connor, the idiot magistrate from Ohio, she's going along with this. Look, it's absolutely reprehensible that he lives in Florida, they live in Florida, and this judge in Ohio allowed it to move forward based on an email.
That's the question.
Based on an email that Michelle wrote to the mayor of that town. That's a joke.
Right.
He allowed it. And he was clearly forum shopping. He wanted a judge that was sympathetic to him, and he found one. So, it terrorizes them.
Can I say something? Can John and his wife go after the judge in Ohio for granting a protection order for when they live for somebody who lives in Florida?
So there is a a notorious U.S. Supreme Court case, Stump versus Sparkman, which shields judges from just about anything. In that case, Harold Stump, a woman walked into his chambers, wasn't even in court, and said, "My daughter is hanging out with the wrong crowd, and I'm afraid she's going to get pregnant. Can you write me an order that will sterilize her?" And Stump was, "Sure, here's an order." And so she sterilizes her and told her her tonsils were going to come out. I'm laughing. It's not a laughing matter.
Oh my God.
One of the worst judges in the history of America.
Holy crap.
So she sterilizes her. The girl's 15. She's 17. She marries Leo Sparkman. They try to get pregnant. At that point, they figure out what happened. They sue everyone, and almost everyone gives them money. They sue the judge, and it goes up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the courts below it were favorable to them, I believe. In a 5-4 decision, they said, well, since you are acting as a judge, and since you were in court, kind of, we're going to give you immunity. So they gave judges near total immunity. Now,
I'm not talking about suing the judge. I'm talking about like maybe
nothing. They can't
like make him withdraw the thing.
Well, yeah.
Oh, she can remove the protection.
They can go to court and ask her to get thrown out, and they can even ask for charges to be brought against Jeremy Hales for filing a false instrument and false swearing.
Yeah, it was completely perjured.
That's the tree they should bark up, trying to get him done for dishonesty.
Except they have a lawyer who has given up named Sean Martin. So they would have.
Well, isn't it kind of funny? Don't you think that he's on these LawTube channels? He was on one with Legal Vices, who has since passed away, and also in Megan's whole realm thing, and all of a sudden he's not doing anything, and thought it was best to wait for a guilty verdict on the contempt charge before he would actually show that there was proof that it was all made up.
This guy regularly follows John and Michelle. All you got to do is take a few of the videos, take a couple of the police reports, and file and say this guy's not scared of them, and he can't do that. No, this guy is a scumbag lawyer, and he's out of Ohio. No one should ever use him. That's the kind of representation you get with Sean Martin. Horrible.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, you can't sue a judge. There were a couple of exceptions. There was a judge in West Virginia who showed up at a guy's house and said, "I'm going to conduct the hearing here." Her name's Goldston. So she does the hearing, supposedly, and takes a bunch of his stuff because she was like, well, you and your ex-wife, you've had enough time to figure out who gets what. So she had the deputy take his stuff. The reason he won is because the court said, well, you can't be a judge in his front yard. But because Candy O'Connor was a judge in her courtroom, you can't sue her. You could argue that she's biased, but in some jurisdictions, the judge who decides if they're biased is Candy O'Connor. In other ones, I don't know how it works in her jurisdiction. So I don't know if you get it in front of another judge. It's not that easy to get a judge removed for bias for obvious reasons. Nobody wants to label a judge as biased.
So I have a question here from Christy. She's one of our loved community members here. And based on we're on this case, she wants to know from Richard specifically, since you used to be a lawyer, she wants to know what you think can be done, which we're kind of touching on with the Ohio PO case, and what should John and Michelle's next steps be?
Well, here's the issue. I think isn't there a motion to dismiss still pending? There's some motion still pending, right? On the case, or motion or summary judgment should be coming up.
No, that's in Florida on the defamation.
Yeah, that's the Florida case. We're talking about the protection order case.
Oh, you're talking about the protective order in Ohio?
Yeah.
Well, I would bring a motion immediately to the court with all the new evidence that they have that shows that this is that all Jeremy's been doing using the protective order as a sword, not a shield. Take all the video that you've been showing, that we've been showing, put it all together into a presentation and submit it to the court. Even if they're pro se party, they are allowed a liberal construction. And so they could put together a couple of pages and say, "Dear Judge, Mr. Hales has been acting in very, very poor faith, in bad faith. We believe he lied to the court, and his actions speak better than anything. And here are documentation of his actions." And I would do that. And if the judge has any bit of justice in her, if there's any bit of justice in that courtroom, she'll say, "Okay, you're right. This entire thing is thrown out. Mr. Hales, stay away. This, that, and the other thing. And just they may have a shot that Jeremy gets punished for putting the stuff in because of his behavior. Those videos are pretty damning against him.
That's all we have.
Right. Perjury.
You have perjury, you have dishonesty, you have filing of a false instrument in a court of law. You have all sorts of problems that he has. And that might very well get referred to the local district attorney if it's done the right way. The problem they have is they're a pro se party, and it's in Ohio, it's in a foreign jurisdiction. But I think that they should take the step and just try to send a pleading in, something that they could put together, spend a little bit of time, and just catalog everything, send it up to the judge.
But look, I was a pro se party out of state for my custody case, and I figured it out. You call the clerk's office and you ask a few questions. Sometimes the clerks say we can't give out legal advice, and you say we're not asking.
Right.
How do I want to file this? How do I file it? And they're supposed to answer your question on that. You're not asking them what is a good case to cite. You're asking like what does it go with? And and the clerk will say you have to have an affidavit for this. It costs $50. They'll nickel and dime you to death. You have to serve the other party. They'll explain what they should, what the basics of how to file it right. I don't think you need to be a lawyer to say on this date we have video of this. Of Jeremy Hales following us. On this date, we have video of this, Jeremy Hales follow us. We have this police report where the local police felt that he was instigating the confrontation. We have another police report where we said he was instigating the confrontation. You don't have to put like 40 of them together. Put 4 or 5 together, and you have enough to get it dismissed, in my opinion. And I've done a lot on protective orders. I've faced a protective order, more than one. So what he's doing is making a mockery of it. He makes it more difficult for the people who need them to get one because it makes everyone cynical about people who get a protective order. They're all
he says in Ohio, getting protective orders are easy. He bragged about it on one of his videos. So I know that there was going to be a motion for jurisdiction, whether they had jurisdiction or not, and they're claiming that they do because Michelle wrote an email to the mayor. Right. But my question is, what about John? John didn't write no email to anybody. All he did was, if he even did, but they're questioning. Put it this way: the comment he made about his private parts, having a picture of his private parts in George's,
Look, they're not lawyers though. Why are they going to go arguing about technicalities and jurisdiction? Stick with the facts. They're pro se parties. Stick with it. What everybody sees, what any housewife, what any third grader can see is that Jeremy is an asshole, and he's using this order to go and harass them. So that's the argument they got to make. Say, listen, I'm not smart in the law. I'm not schooled in the law. I'm not a fancy lawyer like you people, but I know when something's wrong, and this is wrong. You gave him an order, and he's using it like a license to harass me. So that's what they should be doing. Don't worry about jurisdiction or any of that stuff if you're not a lawyer. Worry about the facts.
So motion to dismiss based on bad faith and all this other, right?
Well, to vacate the order. Vacate the order.
Let me address
and to refer Jeremy Hales to the local district attorney for prosecution for dishonesty to the court. That's what I would do.
Let me address the email. It's patently ridiculous and an example of a judge's bias and just completely being ridiculous. That an email, not even to Jeremy Hales, but to the mayor, bad-mouthing Jeremy Hales is enough to say that we should listen here in Ohio and to grant the order. And his lawyers even made the point, yes, we agree that everything that happened didn't even happen in Ohio, but you have this. Totally absurd. Magistrate O'Connor should have said, this case does not belong here. I'm not going to allow it in my court. But, she's a ringer judge, so that's not what she said.
Okay, I have some other questions. These are questions that were emailed to me. Now, this is probably going back to the federal case. What are the legal demands? What the legal demands for discovery are for the defendant? What are they legally obligated to provide? And if the demand for excessive information can be rejected, because constitutional protection is that it has to be limited and specific. Whew.
That's right to a certain extent. Usually, discovery in a federal court case is extremely liberal. Anything that may possibly be relevant would be in. Okay, unless it's covered by some type of litigation privilege. The basis for relevance as an admissibility of evidence is something for trial. It's something for the judge to decide. But in discovery, the opposing parties are entitled to a broad range of materials. So that being said, it can't be an outright fishing expedition. There needs to be some relationship to the materials requested and the claims made in the complaint. So the facts that are being alleged and the claims that are being sought, you have to be able to tie what you're asking for to those claims. And if you can't, and what they do is you can file a motion on discovery to claim that certain things that are asked for either overbroad, meaning that they're so open-ended that you can give anything, it's not specific enough, or that it has no relationship to what the plaintiff is asking for. So that's really the only couple of things that you could do to try to limit the discovery. That, and if there are privileged things like attorney-client privilege or what's called attorney work product, stuff that maybe conversations they would have had with Bruce. Also, there are other types of privileges, like if there was if there were recordings of there are certain things that would be irrelevant. If there were very, very big, private recordings that they had or things like that, those wouldn't be turned over. That type of stuff.
Okay. The next question is, how can Jeremy claim that the things he's accusing Michelle and John of doing caused the damages he's asking for when he is the one who put all the information on his public YouTube channel with 700K plus audience?
That's a good question, but it goes to what the legal stuff is. There are two different trials here. There's a trial for liability. So is there defamation? Right, and was Jeremy harmed? Was he defamed? Were there things said that were untrue and false? Were the signs put up where they were? By John and Lynette. The second trial, or the second part of the trial, is a damages trial. Okay,
right,
and that becomes what the value of the damages are, and so that's why you'd have an expert witness as to the damages. Now that question goes more towards the second part. How can his damages be that high if he's the one that was propagating the false information, right? So, he might get in a situation where they say, okay, even if you're John and Lynette are found liable, there's $1 worth of damage here.
Mm-hmm.
When you think about it, there's a nominal amount of damage to Jeremy Hales.
He claims to have a global YouTube channel, but says that signs in Otter Creek are hurting.
But nobody saw. He can't prove it.
Signs in Otter Creek are hurting his business.
Yeah.
But look,
and he's the one who showed the signs on his YouTube channel.
Also, to answer that question hasn't been answered by the court. So how can he do it? Because we haven't gotten to that part of the court process yet. So we haven't answered that question yet, and that's how he can do it.
Okay, so would you let a jury decide this case at a counterclaim or no?
Can you find it?
I might, because when you're supposed to take as fact through this part what the plaintiff is alleging, and he is alleging that 6 signs in Otter Creek were put by Michelle and John that falsely claimed he was a rapist, and that's really serious. And so I I don't see it. I can see a way that it wouldn't go to a jury, but that's really significant. So that seems to be what you'd call defamation per se, because you're accusing him falsely of being a criminal, no matter what we think of the evidence against him. And I think that's why he framed it the way he did, because he knew that making that kind of a allegation is so strong it has to go to trial. But I've heard Bruce's argument, but signs on a road, signs near a highway, I think that's enough to say people saw them. We're alleging that you put them there. The affidavits in his favor are just awful. But I don't see any way that you'd get around going to trial. That's like a really serious, explosive allegation that they're making that everyone agrees is false.
Gotcha. All right, so we're gonna take some questions from the chat.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. We're gonna scroll up, guys. If you have questions, post them, please. Let's see. Well, let's look at what people are saying. I'm scrolling. I know they were waiting to put questions up. Let's see. The magistrate said it was true. Hold on. Robbie, do you have any questions?
I'm just so amazed on how something can go through this. But I was talking to Rips about it too, and he was answering me a bunch of stuff. How the magistrate has never seen anything like this, and I think Michael touched on it and Richard touched on it, that he actually can't go look at this stuff because it's not in court.
Correct.
And so that was my big thing. But then
it is in court. Some of it, at least, is in court now, because as part of motions that Bruce has filed, he has put links to it. So now he can.
But it's like they were saying
the ones that Bruce put in, but the ones that Bruce put in should give this judge, this magistrate Bozo, a good idea of how much Jeremy Hales is misusing the court. That he's
he's weaponized it.
Yeah.
I mean, he threatens everybody on a daily basis to getting sued. And it's illegal. It's illegal. Everything's illegal. It's all going to court.
Right.
Like
look, he was claiming that you, and he said you were promoting it, but all you did was say that it exists. He was claiming that you may, like, drawing attention to the what's, oh my God, I'm losing my train of thought. The fundraiser that I started to pay for the stories that I'm on it. That somehow this means that you were soliciting for me harassment of him.
Yes.
He heard words and put them together, and it didn't matter if any of that was even close to right, and it's not even close to right.
Yeah, he's blaming me for everything. I guess because, like, to him, what he sees, because it's YouTube, I don't know. He sees I'm the loudest one, or maybe it's just the fact that he knows I got his number. Mm-hmm. I was totally exposing his lies and everything he's lied from, to the day.
He, rather than competing in the marketplace of ideas, would rather bully people through the courts. And again, why would you support someone like that?
Right. So, Richard, are you going to protest in Otter Creek? And Michael, if you are looking for more people for it, Peace in the Northeast. That's from Bearded Fisherman.
I'm not planning on it.
I'm thinking about going up there. We'll see where it goes in the next little bit. I wanted to see where the dust settled on this appearance in Pensacola, but we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna have some media. We'll have some media up there. I it's not too far from me. It's only a few hours away. I'm down in Southwest Florida area, so go up the coast a little bit. Take a little ride up to 75. It'd be fun.
You come up, Richard. Swing by. We'll show you around the swamp.
Can I answer the question that's on the screen? So it says, Jeremy has weaponized YouTube to sway the court, the judges, and he is tampering and intimidating witness. Is he going to get away with it? I find that ironic because one of his chief propagandists, Shara Michelle, what's her last name? Shara Michelle
Wolf.
Wolf claimed that I was intimidating her when I asked her a few questions, and the irony was she reaches out to me and then like makes an insulting comment, something like, well, you seem like you're out of left field. And then I asked her for her email address because I wanted to see if she subscribed to my Substack, because I was like, well, how do you know what field I'm in if you're not even reading the Substack? And she claimed that I was intimidating her as a witness. I don't think he's going to get away with it. He may be intimidating people through YouTube, but that stuff usually doesn't work. It usually blows up in your face after a while. So I don't think he's going to get away with it. Some people get intimidated by that stuff. Other people don't. JN, I've been threatened by an actual gangster. There's nothing you or your minions are going to do that's going to threaten me. So I wouldn't, but I'm not going to be a witness. But no, I think this stuff eventually blows up in your face.
Okay, now John and Michelle have contacted the court in Ohio, and they refuse to give them any information whatsoever. So should they just write up a motion and file it?
Yeah, and then when it's denied, you ask why they denied it. But also, different clerks will work with you in different ways. What I would say is
there could be a self-help office too. You never know who they called up. There could be a self-help office in that county. But what they should do is just get affidavits, put them together, and then once they're filed court affidavits, they can be talked about in the media. So we'll talk about them, and we'll create the media.
Lisa, be right back.
Candy O'Connor could become a household name even before she sees the affidavits hit the bench. So we'll see.
Right on. Okay. So Marla asked, since I'm a defendant and didn't agree to a magistrate, can I motion to change that?
Yes. In federal court, every party has to agree to a magistrate, or you get the Article 3 judge. That is correct. Look, that second lawsuit, it's barely gotten started.
Yeah, I don't even think.
That guy Helm has filed. Nobody's even filed anything. So if they're saying it's in front of the magistrate, that is of little meaning for now. But yes, all parties have to agree to it.
Okay.
Lisa, I got to get going in a couple minutes. So either we wrap it up or I wrap it up and you keep going with everyone else.
All right. Well, I'm definitely going to stay on a little bit. If Richard wants to stay.
Is there another question? Maybe I answer two.
I'm scrolling through the chat. Let's see. They make excuses for. I'm just scrolling. I missed a lot because I'm holding on to the questions above.
The interactions that I've had to answer this, they make excuses for Jeremy weaponizing the protective order. Like I think it's like Jeremy has the protective order. He can do whatever he wants. That's absolutely correct. A protective order means you're afraid. So you're not supposed to approach the people you're afraid of. That's completely ridiculous. And they all say, oh, no, well, she reached out to someone in Ohio, so that's why the Ohio court had it. These are people who've never dealt with a protective order. In an objective court, that's not even close to enough. And she didn't reach out to Jeremy. She reached out to the mayor's office. It's completely ridiculous that an email to the mayor's office is enough to trigger a protective order hearing in Ohio. Completely ridiculous.
Right. Well, right now, the only person who's answered really is MLS because he was the first one served. Which, let me ask you, is this like a strategic move to like only serve a certain number of people in this and then wait and hold off?
You had 90 days.
Or is it that shock you can only handle 5 at a time?
No. You got 90 days to serve the parties in federal court. And then, it doesn't mean that the case is over if you don't serve them. You have to refile it as another lawsuit. And then they'd probably have to combine the lawsuits if it's the same combinations of fact and law. But I like what the response was from what I saw. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow, Mike, when you have more time on our show. The Rule 8 request for a more definite statement, saying that the pleadings that Sprockets put together were a schlock job, and nobody can understand what the heck is going on with it. And he's got to do it a little better.
And I'm going to go after I make this comment. Richard and I have pointed out that is a frivolous lawsuit, and we've had a couple of comments on the YouTube channel from Jeremy Hales. This is just your opinion. Well, now it's not just our opinion, it's the opinion of Mr. Helm's lawyer, who said that what you filed was so bad that I don't know how to respond because I'm not sure what you're saying my client did wrong. So I don't know how to say whether or not he did something wrong or not, because it was so bad, I don't know what you're saying he did wrong. That was the substance of the filing, and that's an embarrassment to a lawyer to have someone doing that. Just awful. All right, guys, I got to get going, but you'll keep going. Lisa, thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on. Anytime. I enjoy talking with you guys.
Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Don't forget the Unknown Podcast. No, you usually, it's recorded, so you bring it out at what time in the afternoon?
Right. We usually start recording around 9:30, so around noon Central Time is when it comes out. So we'll put that on my channel. All right, I'll talk to you guys later.
All righty. Thanks, Mike. So, Richard, there's a question here for you. It says, do you agree that the best way to stop G is for those specific people he has defamed to file suit on him? They have the proof. Offense is the best defense.
I think that offense is the best defense, but I wouldn't go ahead and sue him. I would wait for him to sue and then countersue. See, one of the things that you have in a lawsuit is you have an ability to counterclaim. He's opened the door. You can slam the door back down on his hand, if he's in the way.
Right.
And that's what I would do is when I'm ready to do something, if I'm somebody that's been sued as a defendant and the person who sued me as the plaintiff is the one that's really the bad actor, I have two choices. I could move to dismiss immediately and say there's no case here, or I can say, gotcha, buddy. I'm going to answer and counterclaim. And you impose what's called the counterclaim, and you bring all the bad things that Jeremy Hales did against him. So
that's what I said. I said to him, thank you very much for allowing me to come forward and tell the judge exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, it's $405 to file a lawsuit in federal court. All that Jeremy does is saves you the $405. And you can actually say thank you to Jeremy for that.
Right. So in conjunction with K-Bird's question, can everyone who has been defamed form a class action suit?
Class actions are very hard to do. It usually takes a lot of people. There's something that's called a joinder suit that's a little bit smaller, but still it takes a lot of people. You almost have a very big lawsuit here. And if everybody all 10 defendants get together and sue Jeremy back in some way, shape, or form with counterclaims, it's going to be a big lawsuit. It's going to be a very big lawsuit.
Amen.
Let's see. I'm scrolling. Did Jeremy say he had ties with the Ohio mayor? Yes, he does have ties with the Ohio mayor. Absolutely. They go to lunch and dinner and all that stuff. And he also supported the canine program, or they call it a village there. And they actually think that there could be some kind of tie in there. Now, what has happened, though, is somebody in this whole, I call them the minions, with the smear campaigns, one of these channels, while they were live reading one of the one of the documents motions that were filed, they had somebody in the chat called the fly on the wall. And this person has also posted anonymously claiming that they work in the courthouse. And while they're live, the judge, Bolito, is pissed off and he's writing an order right now. And a day later, that order came out. And that's the one where he was mad and required them to go to the hearing. So what do you think about that?
Yeah,
that there's a leak in the courthouse?
Yeah.
Well, it happens all the time.
Does it matter?
No, I would be concerned if I were the judge or I were the court administrators, but this stuff happens all the time. Like I guarantee you, there are cases where stuff's supposed to be confidential, and the stuff that gets out, that's how it happens. People leak stuff, especially court personnel, court clerks, people in the courthouse hearing the gossip in the hallways and in the corridors. That's what happens. Like, I'll give you one case I know that's going to be a big league leak case is this Elon Musk case up in New York with Ashley St. Clair, the one about the you have a maternity case in New York that's supposed to be a private case. It's supposed to be a sealed case. Guarantee that's going to be in front of every tabloid. And how's it going to get in the front of every tabloid? Somebody in the courthouse most likely is going to go be handing it to media people. That's just how it happens. It happens all the time that you have leaks inside the courthouse.
Right. Another question is, do you think that his partner, girlfriend, whatever she is, should be deposed? Or I think she should be on the lawsuit itself.
I think absolutely you have to depose her. When
Yeah.
you're in a litigation, it's war. You want to put as much pressure on them as possible. So
Yeah.
I would be deposing everybody. I would be deposing as many of Jeremy Hales' friends, family members, allies as you could. I would get everybody deposed if I could. If I could take Megan and depose her, if I could take Tug, if I could take all these people, I would be deposing every one of them.
Yeah. He tried to depose us. I mean, so everybody else should be forewarned.
Turnabout is fair play.
Yeah. How can Jeremy brag that he has flipped a witness when no witnesses have been called for trial yet?
Because Jeremy is an imbecile. That's why he can do that. Really, it's like imbecilic. It's like I don't know where he's coming from. It's like he's getting a Cracker Jack box third grade understanding of the law. There are fifth graders that will understand this a lot better. He interchanges terms from criminal law with civil law, and he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He looks very, very foolish, and that's really all it comes down to.
Alrighty. Let me see. What can be done about the Pensacola courthouse? Oh, there we go. We already answered that. Let me. Sorry. I'm scrolling. Strictly's question. Was that it? I'm sorry. I'm looking. I was so far back in the chat. Let's see. What can be done? Okay, we already did that. I went right back to it. Lisa, is Richard saying a class action lawsuit could be done by the 10 or they should file separate would be better?
They're already in there. You're already in court. You've already been sued. All you got to do is counterclaim at this point. You don't got to file anything else. You bring it right in the docket that it's on. It's going to be one document. It's called an answer and a counterclaim, and together that document is the same as if you sued them, right away. It's the same effect. You're asserting claims against Jeremy Hales, and you're going to ask him for money. So that's what you're going to be doing.
In the countersuit, do treble punitive damages apply?
Oh, you could, yes. If punitive damages, attorney's fees, if the statute of the claim calls for punitive damages, if it calls for attorney's fees, if it calls for all sorts of different things, you get all the benefits of the law without limitation. That's very true.
Awesome. Okay, if all the illegal things Jeremy is doing during this lawsuit with J&M, how can he be arrested?
Well, the criminal law is different than the civil law, and that's something that Jeremy hasn't understood yet either. So he thinks that criminal law and civil law are the same. There's no such thing as an arrest in a civil case,
Right.
There's no such thing as that. So just because they're going to court doesn't mean that there's going to be cops and there's going to be FBI and everything else. What there is here is a situation where if Jeremy has acted in a way that is against the criminal laws, whether it's in Florida, whether it's in Ohio, whatever jurisdiction he's in, then that would be something that he would be accountable for. If he is in this court specifically filing dishonest paperwork, or he's lying, or he's perjuring himself, that would be an issue in the federal court case. But other stuff that he's doing, harassment, threatening people, that type of stuff could be an issue under Florida law, where he is locally. So it just depends. It depends.
Okay, Jeremy keeps spewing jail time. Is any of this jail time worthy? Secondly, can Jeremy be charged criminally? Perjury, stalking. He's saying that we're all going to get arrested. We're going to jail.
You're being sued civilly for damages. If you look at his complaint, he's not asking you to go to jail, because he can't ask you for you to go to jail. That's not something you can ask for in a civil court. That's not the relief you get in a civil court. You get damages. He's asking for damages. He wants money. Randy Shaka doesn't get paid by you sitting in jail. Randy Shotgun doesn't get paid by tears; he gets paid by money. Okay, that's just what it comes down to.
Right.
So, with respect to him going to jail, the thing is that if he's done something wrong, then he should be held to account. There are different types of sanctions that happen in a civil court, and that's money. We've already seen sanctions, but there's also preclusion of evidence, meaning that Jeremy can't testify to certain things or allow certain evidence in to support his claim, or it could be the claims get dismissed depending on how badly he behaves in the civil case. But also, there's a criminal sanction in the sense that if he breaks it or violates the criminal law, or he does something that is itself its own crime, like perjury, like filing a false document, like swearing to something falsely, that could be a basis for criminal prosecution as well. Also, like I said before, the harassment stuff, that type of stuff could be an independent crime. So you just have to see what the local state attorney would say.
Right. Wow. This is so crazy. I want to pick your brain at some point. But I definitely think we should put together a barbecue up in Otter Creek.
I think so. I think that'd be a lot of fun. What I want to do is I want to buy those cardboard cutouts. So you get them online. You send them the picture in, and then they send it to you like a few days later. So we'll get a Jeremy cardboard cutout. We'll get a George cardboard cutout. We'll invite them to the barbecue if they want to come. We'll have the cardboard cutouts. That would be pretty cool, actually. Maybe we'll get a Megan. We'll get a Megan cutout. We'll get a Tug cutout. We'll get the whole bunch.
God.
DUI lawyer cutout. That would be a lot of fun. And then
Would
what I'll do is
I'll bring the DUI lawyer though. He's so short.
Well, there you go. But the cool part is I'll bring a camera crew and we'll do an interview. I'll interview Jeremy. I'll interview the cardboard cutout if he doesn't want to come out of his house. That would be fun.
Oh, when we were there, he wouldn't even drive past. Once he knew who we were, he wouldn't even drive past.
He's what you call a telephone or a keyboard tough guy. That's what he is. He's a wimp. That's what he is. It's pretty sad, actually. It really is.
Well, what you have to remember, and people forget, is that he knows what's going on. Like, the reason why he's always able to catch them on the road or something is he has cameras literally on his property across the street facing her house, like directly on it, not even on like the perimeter of his property line. It's directly facing her property. So now here's a question that Shauna has. Could Richard draft papers for Michelle for Ohio? I know you're no longer a lawyer.
I'm not a lawyer. I don't get involved in any of that. I'm a journalist now. So they would have to go find a lawyer to help them out to do that. That's not something that I would do. That's not something that anybody should do other than a lawyer. If they wanted to do that and find somebody, they should call the Bar Association in Ohio, in the local county where they are, and try to get a recommendation to lawyers in the local county where they need to go.
Alrighty. How much can John and Michelle sue him for all this torment and the 40 days in jail, plus the suggested $5 billion? Well, please suggest $5 billion.
Well, the beautiful thing about America is that you can go into court and sue anybody for any amount, anywhere. So they could walk in and sue him for $5 billion if they wanted to. I doubt they're going to get $5 billion because Jeremy isn't worth $5 billion. But they can sue for something substantial if they can prove, all their claims. And so there may very well be an affirmative claim.
Richard, if you were wearing leather, it is criminal to pee in a pad. Is it criminal to pee in a pad?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Oh my gosh, that's like part of. Oh my gosh, leather pads, Pebs. Oh my gosh. Okay, they should have examples on their county's websites. That's true. Wow. Guys, thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for coming on along with Mike and answering people's questions and just talking about the
check us out on The Unknown with Mike. I also have a Substack, Luthmann.substack.com, Luthmann, Luthmann, 2 N's, .substack.com. I also report about the Jeremy stuff on my Florida site, FLGulf.news.com. That's Florida, FLGulf.news.com. So
I'll add that to the description too.
Yeah, check out my outlets, and we're reporting on this stuff, and yeah, keep it going. But definitely, I want to get this barbecue going up there. We'll have a fun time.
Oh, we'll definitely do that. That'd be a lot of fun. There is a question. From the way Richard explained public figures, does it really make Michelle a public figure since she ran for Otter Creek Town Council?
So that's the point about public figures. She's not like a Derek Jeter or an A-Rod or a Michael Jordan or a Donald Trump that everybody knows who they are. It's like she's not a public figure for all purposes. She may very well be a limited public figure for Otter Creek purposes. Because especially related to Otter Creek political purposes. Right. So she may be a limited public figure. That's not something that we know. It's something that's not determined, by the judge yet. But she may be a limited public figure for a limited purpose.
And would that also be for a limited amount of time? Because she ran basically for, I don't know, let's just say it was like a month to 2 months, right? And now she's no longer, like, she's not on the town council.
And that's why I'd say it depends, because it depends on how injected you are, how you inject yourself.
Gotcha. If
you go out there and you run and then you just disappear and you withdraw from politics and you just go about your business, then you're probably not a public figure for those purposes, for that limited purpose. Gotcha. But if you continue in politics, you continue to antagonize, you write stuff on Facebook, you write stuff in the local newspaper, you go to local meetings, you become a rabble rouser about politics locally, then you would be a public figure.
Right. Which I don't believe she's doing, but she is in the chat and she has a question. She said, can we hold the magistrate responsible for all she's done by not allowing our evidence or video evidence?
What you do there is you got to just bring it to the court's attention nicely again and say, dear judge, here's a motion that for the court to vacate the order and reconsider everything based on all this new evidence. You were presented evidence before, you didn't get the full story. Here's the full story. We're really good people. We didn't do anything wrong. And don't judge us by what Jeremy said. Judge us by Jeremy's actions. Here's all the videos and here's all the other stuff that he's done. And please make a new determination.
Which she could include in the motion to vacate the order. Correct? Uh-oh, I got lost somewhere. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. We might have lost Richard.
I think we did.
Yeah. All right, maybe he's got a mic issue. Oh, there he is.
We're to rescind the order and then turn around and they may even punish Jeremy and yell at him a little bit.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that, Richard? We lost you for a moment.
I think that that anybody that would they'd have to go and present that to the judge. They'd have to go and present all the new stuff that Jeremy did, and all the videos and all the bad things. Jeremy came here and he cried that we did X, Y, and Z with his words, but I'm going to show you Jeremy's actions. Here they are, and that we're just regular people and we just want a fair shake. And judge, this is what he did. Please judge him by his actions. This is what he's done since you gave him the order.
All right, cool. Thank you so much. There was a question for Kathy, from Kathy. I'm trying to find it. They're asking me. Kathy, can you retype your question? Because it's too far up. I cannot see it. Granny Kathy, yes. Ed, chill out. I have to tell my people to hush all the time. So shut up. It's like this new thing that we're doing, like shut up, Ed, or shut up this one. If they scroll too far, I can't see it. If you say you can't scroll that far back, I emailed it. All right, hold on, let me grab it. He emailed it, and it's not there.
It's not
Come on,
there.
Ed, you're slow. Question. All right, I got it. Can Russ, the former mayor, charge Jeremy for accusing him of stealing $1 million, which was proven it did not happen?
A mayor can't charge anybody. A district attorney or a state attorney does the charge.
Does that? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Granny Kathy. Thank you. Miyagi, you're funny. Alrighty, guys.
My people shut up sometimes.
Thank you again, Richard. Thank you so much. This is awesome. I would love to give you a call and pick your brain.
Yeah, no problem.
And we'll set that up for sure.
Lisa, Lisa,
Yes.
put up Kendra's OF link up there.
Shut up, Robbie. Sure. I wish Kendra was here because Kendra always has questions. So she would definitely love to talk to you guys. But yeah, so let's see. Can Russ sue Hales for accusing him of stealing $1 million? We got that already. I'm like rereading questions. I'm trying to catch up with the chat. Lisa, are Michelle and John okay with Bruce? And are they still in contact with him? Also, what is Bruce going to do in the next 30 days? I have a feeling you're going to be hearing something from Bruce because Bruce is going to be responding to the order where he needs to show cause why not to be sanctioned. So I have a feeling you're going to be seeing a good response from Bruce real soon. And yes, they are still in contact with him. Now, Richard, let me ask you this. What did you feel about that Doc 123, the motion to vacate? What's going to happen with that? Even though Belitho put this order, to show cause about the failure to appear.
To vacate the magistrate judge?
Yeah, that's like still sitting there. It's never been answered. Someone's claiming it was, but
I think they have to determine that at this point. And if they haven't determined it, I think they have to appeal it because that's something that's an important issue. I think that
right.
There's a basic threshold you have to establish to show merit to a motion, and I think that Bruce put forward enough to show that there could be an issue with Belitho, and that that he could be removed. Whether he does or he doesn't is up to the Article 3 judge. But I think it has to be entertained. I think a due process really demands that they give that motion some weight and they look at it, read it, and answer it. So I think there's going to be something going with that motion.
Alrighty, cool. And as far as appeals go and stuff like that, with these cases here, now anything that let's just say Michelle's awarded something, or we are, or anything like that. Like Jeremy's just going to appeal it. He's going to try and keep this thing going on and on. How long do you actually see this lasting before it's finally said and done and over with?
Look, it's getting close in the first case in the sense that it's at a certain point you gotta show your cards, and
right.
And Jeremy's getting to that point in that first case, so it's going to come out to be a real nothing burger. But the thing with law is slow and expensive, so. That's just what happens. It could just drag on and drag on and drag on. That's the point.
And he's counting on that.
If you had a good judge, the judges are all. Some judges are no bullshit judges, and that's kind of what they need in this case. The problem with Belitho is he's been a bullshit judge. He's been entertaining all of the bullshit, and so hopefully they get a no bullshit judge. If I were the Article 3 judge, I may just spin the wheel on this thing. I might say, you know what? They got a problem with Belitho? Fine. We're going to give you a new magistrate. And we'll get ready for trial. The new magistrate, you go to the new magistrate. New magistrate says, okay, here's trial dates. Get ready to go. So and file your motions for summary judgment, by this date, and we're going to move this case along. That would be probably the best thing to do with this case to get things moving.
And what about the fact that there's a motion there for Bruce to withdraw?
Well, that has to get resolved. Then I think that will get resolved by the Article 3 judge, right? Or like you get sent down to the magistrate. Either way, but I don't know. Yeah, at a certain point, if they don't want Bruce to be the lawyer anymore, and Bruce wants out, then Bruce probably can get his walking papers.
Right. Alrighty. Well, guys, Tori's gonna be going live here shortly, and I will come back later on. This evening. Richard, thank you so much. Robbie, thanks for coming on.
Richard, nice meeting you, brother.
Nice to meet you.
We'll definitely talk about that. And everybody check out the podcast, the Unknown Podcast, tomorrow around noon. I will definitely post it on our community posts. They change it from community to posts. But I'll be posting it, and I'll also fix the description to add your information, Richard.
Yeah.
So, and I gotta ask, do you like Richard, Rich, or is it Dick? What Rick? How do you like to?
they call me everything. I probably answer to everything too.
All right. All right, guys. Guys, I want to thank you all for the super chats. I will be on later tonight, and I will actually thank you all personally for that. We're going to get going now because Tori is going to go live. Thank you all so much. Thank you for your support.
Right, God bless. Love y'all.
I love you guys, and we shall talk to you all later this evening. Ta-ta.
Bye-bye. Ta-ta for now.
Bye.